The chamber of the ancient machine hummed like a living heart. Its glowing panels stretched across the walls, floor, and ceiling, bathing the humans in a soft, radiant light. Every star chart, every hidden vault, every thread of knowledge pulsed around them as if the galaxy itself had come alive. The machine had awakened fully, responding to human intuition, patience, and curiosity. Yet outside the chamber, tension grew. The alien coalition had watched for days, struggling to accept the truth. Only humans could command this power. Many were awed, some fearful, and a few, especially the Talar, were angry. They refused to believe that a young, fragile species could hold such responsibility. Generals whispered of seizing the humans, of taking control of the machine by force. Arguments flared in the council tents. The galaxy teetered on the edge of conflict. Captain Mara Lynn, Dr. Elias Brand, and Lieutenant Jace Rowan sensed the rising tension. They knew that their actions in the next hours would shape the future of countless civilizations. The chamber pulsed around them as if aware that a choice must be made. "This isn't just about knowledge," Captain Lynn said quietly. "It's about trust. The machine trusts us, but can the galaxy trust us too?" Dr. Brand nodded. "We hold the keys, but we don't hold the answers. We can guide, but we must choose carefully," Rowan added. "And we need to act before fear or pride drives others to violence. If they attack us here, the machine could be damaged, or worse, shut down." Outside, the Talar generals gathered their fleets preparing to storm the chamber. The Karen engineers debated whether to sabotage the humans' efforts, while the Quar floated silently, torn between awe and fear. Even the Vaer arbiters struggled to maintain order. It seemed that the galaxy itself waited with bated breath. Inside the chamber, the humans continued their work. The machine projected a map of hidden vaults, each containing knowledge capable of saving dying worlds, repairing ecosystems, or creating technologies far beyond current understanding. There were star systems where life had vanished, planets left barren by natural disasters or long-forgotten conflicts. The machine offered not just tools, but guidance on how to use them wisely. Dr. Brand studied the symbols carefully. "Each vault has instructions," he said. "It's showing us how to restore what has been lost. But it's not forcing anything. It's waiting for our choice." Captain Lynn looked at the projections, her mind racing. "We could claim all of this for ourselves," she said. "We could take the power and control everything. But that's not why the machine chose us. It wants us to guide, not dominate." The hum of the machine seemed to respond to her words. Light pulsed in gentle waves across the walls, as if approving. Suddenly, the Talar generals stormed the chamber. Their ships descended, weapons raised, and troops flooded toward the entrance. "Step aside, humans!" General Korvac shouted. "This power belongs to the strong, not to fragile beings like you." Captain Lynn stepped forward, unafraid. "The machine does not respond to threats," she said calmly. "It responds to choice, to understanding, and to wisdom." "We cannot be forced," the chamber reacted. Panels shifted, energy arcs formed between walls, and light surged across the floor. The Talar troops were pushed back by invisible forces, their weapons powerless against the ancient energy. The Karen engineers tried to intervene, sending sequences of commands into the system. The machine ignored them completely. It was clear, the ancient device would answer only to humans. Dr. Brand whispered, "It's making a statement. The power it holds cannot be seized. It must be earned, understood, and guided." Rowan added, "And the machine trusts us to make the right choice. That's why it accepted us when no one else could." Captain Lynn moved toward the center of the chamber, placing her hand on the largest panel. The holographic maps shifted again, showing potential futures. Each choice carried consequences. Some paths led to restoration and peace. Others led to destruction and war. The humans could feel the weight of responsibility pressing on them, heavier than any weapon or empire. Dr. Brand traced a path toward a vault on a distant planet, one marked by immense energy readings. "If we take this route," he said, "we could restore an entire star system, but it may anger others who seek it for their own purposes." Captain Lynn nodded. "We cannot take what is not ours. We must guide, share, and protect." The machine pulsed, and for the first time symbols seemed to form words that the humans could sense clearly. "Choice is yours. Choose wisely, for all life watches." Outside the chamber, the aliens paused. Even the Talar generals felt the weight of the humans' decision. They had expected fear, weakness, or hesitation. Instead, they saw resolve, clarity, and responsibility. Slowly, a realization spread. Humans had been chosen not because they were strong or brilliant or proud, but because they could grow, adapt, and endure. Captain Lin spoke again, her voice steady. "We will not take this power for ourselves. We will use it to help the galaxy. We will restore what has been lost, share knowledge where it is needed, and protect civilizations from collapse." The chamber pulsed in response, light spreading across the walls and floor like a living wave. Energy flowed outward, connecting the humans to the machine in a bond of trust and guidance. Dr. Brand added, "The machine is not a weapon. It is a guardian. It has chosen us to awaken it, to guide it, not to control it for conquest." Rowan smiled. "And that's what makes us capable of holding it." The Talar generals lowered their weapons, though reluctantly. The Karen engineers paused, unsure how to act. Even the Quor, who had floated in skepticism, now nodded in understanding. The humans' choice had not only awakened the machine, but it had also united the galaxy in respect, if not yet in full trust. The machine began to project its full knowledge. Star systems glimmered in holographic form, showing lost civilizations, hidden technologies, and vast energy networks. The humans studied each detail carefully. The machine did not dictate actions, it offered possibilities, guidance, and warnings. The humans' task was to act wisely, with patience, humility, and foresight. Captain Lin addressed the aliens. "We will not hide this knowledge. We will share it responsibly, under the guidance of the Coalition. But the machine answers only to humans because only humans can choose with wisdom, not greed or pride." A silence fell across the chamber. The alien leaders understood finally that their greatest empires and their most brilliant minds had failed to earn the trust of the ancient machine. Only humans new to the stars, fragile and young, could guide it, and through it the galaxy. The machine's energy began to spread beyond the chamber, touching nearby planets and distant star systems. It awakened hidden vaults, restored ancient energy flows, and revealed pathways long forgotten. The humans watched carefully, guiding its power, ensuring that no harm would come to civilizations unprepared for such knowledge. Dr. Brand marveled at the scale. "This is more than we imagined. It's restoring balance, teaching growth, and offering hope. The galaxy itself is waking." Captain Lin placed her hand over the largest panel again. "And we must ensure that hope is not lost. That is our responsibility. That is why the machine chose us." The aliens observed quietly, many feeling awe and respect. Even the Talar generals, still proud but humbled, realized that this small, fragile species had done what they could not. They had proven that intelligence and strength were not enough. Curiosity, responsibility, and the willingness to grow had earned the trust of the ancient machine. By dawn, the humans had made their choice. They would not claim power for themselves. They would guide, share, and protect. The machine accepted this choice fully, opening its archives, revealing all it had to offer, and connecting humanity to knowledge that had been hidden for millennia. Captain Lin, Dr. Brand, and Lieutenant Rowan stood in the center of the chamber, the light washing over them. Outside, the alien coalition had grown silent, watching in awe and quiet understanding. The galaxy had witnessed a turning point. A fragile species had risen to responsibility, proving that even the smallest can hold the greatest power if guided by wisdom and humility. The machine's hum softened, a warm, gentle vibration that seemed to approve. Its choice was clear. Its trust was earned. Its guidance would continue through humans not as rulers but as stewards, protectors, and teachers. And so, the galaxy entered a new age. An age where knowledge, growth, and hope were guided by humanity. The ancient machine had awakened. Its legacy would now be shared. And the legend of humans, the fragile, resilient, and wise, would echo across the stars for generations to come. For the first time in countless millennia, the galaxy had found its true guides, and they were human. The desert world of Chorus stretched endlessly under a pale orange sky. Wind carried grains of silver sand across empty plains, where only broken ruins gave signs of a forgotten age. For centuries, this planet had been dismissed as lifeless, nothing more than a graveyard of crumbling stones and half-buried monuments. But the latest expedition thought otherwise. A group of explorers, scientists, soldiers, and archaeologists from different species had gathered here to investigate strange energy signals hidden deep beneath the ground. The readings were unusual, ancient but strong, almost like a heartbeat under the surface. They worked for weeks, digging carefully, until one morning their efforts revealed something extraordinary. It was not a building. It was not a monument. It was a machine. Beneath the sand lay a colossal structure of black metal and faded silver. Its surface was marked with patterns of light that pulsed faintly, like veins glowing under skin. Towers and gears lay hidden, their true scale impossible to measure because the machine stretched further than their instruments could detect. The alien crew gathered in silence around the opening they had made. For a moment, no one spoke. Even the hardened warriors who had traveled through countless battles were struck with awe. "This is older than any record," whispered Commander Vera, a tall alien with scaled skin and narrow golden eyes. "Older than my people, older than the Confederation itself." Professor Darren, an insectoid scholar whose forearms trembled as he adjusted his scanning device, added, "The energy readings are stable. But the design, it is beyond comprehension. We may have uncovered something from the first age." The words made everyone uneasy. The first age was only a theory, a time when civilizations far greater than the present might have existed, leaving behind ruins across the galaxy. If this machine was truly from that era, its purpose was unimaginable. Among the group stood Elias Kane, the only human on the expedition. He was young, not yet 30, with dust clinging to his dark hair and clothes. Unlike the others, he was not a soldier or an experienced spacefarer. He was an archaeologist, invited almost as an afterthought because of his skill at translating ancient symbols. Most of the crew barely noticed him, and some even thought his presence unnecessary. Yet Elias stared at the machine with wide eyes, feeling something stir deep inside him. He had studied ruins before, but never anything like this. The sheer size, the strange patterns on its surface, the way it seemed to hum faintly in the air, it was overwhelming. The team began their work quickly. Scanners mapped the outer surface. Engineers searched for entrances. Soldiers kept their weapons ready, though none of them truly knew if weapons would matter against something this old and powerful. Hours turned into days. They found access panels carved with symbols that glowed faintly, but nothing opened. Commands spoken in different languages were ignored. Even when they used energy pulses and advanced hacking tools, the machine remained silent. "It does not recognize us," muttered Professor Darren in frustration after another failed attempt. "It is as if we do not exist in its design." "Then we must force it," growled a warrior from the Yarick species, slamming his armored fist against the metal wall. The blow left no mark. The machine did not even tremble. Elias stayed near the edge of the excavation site, often overlooked. He spent his time sketching the patterns he saw on the machine's surface. Unlike the others, he was not trying to force the machine open. He was trying to understand it. One evening, while the sky turned crimson with the setting sun, Elias found himself alone at the site. The others had returned to the base camp for food and rest, but he remained, unable to pull himself away. He traced the strange lines carved into the surface, whispering to himself. "These are not just decorations. They look like language. Maybe instructions?" He pressed his palm gently against the cold metal. The hum beneath the surface vibrated through his skin. He felt as if something on the other side of the machine was listening. Without thinking, he whispered, "Can you hear me?" For a moment, nothing happened. The desert wind whistled through the excavation pit. Elias sighed and turned to leave. Then the ground shook. A low rumble echoed across the sands. The glowing lines on the machine brightened, flowing like rivers of light. The massive gears hidden beneath the sand groaned, and part of the structure shifted, rising slightly from its resting place. Elias froze in shock. He had not touched any controls. He had not used any tools. All he had done was speak. The others rushed back within minutes, weapons raised and scanners active. Commander Vera demanded, "What happened?" "What did you do?" Elias stammered. I don't know. I spoke to it, and then it moved." The aliens exchanged uneasy looks. Professor Darren tapped furiously at his device. "Impossible. We have tried dozens of command codes. The machine ignored us completely." "But it listened to him," Commander Vera said slowly, her golden eyes narrowing on Elias. The human swallowed nervously, realizing that every gaze was now fixed on him. For the first time since joining the expedition, he was no longer invisible. He was the center of attention and suspicion. To test it, Vera ordered Elias to speak again. Hesitantly, he turned toward the machine. His voice trembled, but he managed to say one word: "Rise." The ground quaked violently. Huge sections of the machine lifted from beneath the sand, revealing towers and spires that rearranged themselves into a perfect circle around the excavation site. The crew staggered back in fear and awe. Lights pulsed across the structures, forming patterns like stars. The sound of deep resonant gears filled the air like the breathing of a giant that had slept for ages. "It listens, only to him," Professor Darren whispered. The truth spread through the crew like fire. The greatest discovery in centuries, a relic of the First Age, responded not to the most advanced alien species, not to commanders or scientists, but to a single human archaeologist. Elias's heart pounded. He had no idea why the machine obeyed him. He had no special power, no great knowledge, and yet, for reasons beyond his understanding, it had chosen to hear his voice. He stared at the glowing towers rising around him, and for the first time he felt the weight of something much larger than himself. Whatever this machine was, it had waited for a long time, and now somehow it was waiting for him. The desert night on Chorus was quiet, broken only by the low hum of the awakened machine. The stars above seemed to watch silently, as if they too understood the importance of what had just happened. Inside the camp, the mood was tense. Soldiers kept their weapons close. Scientists whispered among themselves. The aliens could not hide their unease. A discovery this great should have brought celebration, yet fear clung to everyone. At the center of it all sat Elias Kane, the young human archaeologist. He had not meant to become important. He had not wanted this attention. But the truth was undeniable. The ancient machine responded only to him. Commander Vera called a meeting in the command tent. The leaders of each group gathered: alien scholars with glittering eyes, insectoid engineers, scaled soldiers, and a few cautious diplomats. Elias was asked to attend. Though he sat at the far end of the table, nervous and uncertain, Vera spoke first, her voice sharp and steady. "We have tested this fact again and again. None of us can make the machine move. Only the human can. We must decide what this means." Professor Darren's antennae twitched as he tapped his datapad. "It is clear the builders of this machine designed it to respond to a specific kind of mind. Logic suggests they left safeguards, perhaps to prevent misuse. The question is, why a human?" Murmurs spread across the table. Some of the warriors shifted uncomfortably. Others glared at Elias as if the answer might be hidden inside him. Elias finally spoke, his voice quiet but steady. "I don't know why. I'm no leader. I'm not a scientist like you. I'm just an archaeologist. But when I touched it, I felt something, almost like it was listening." A silence followed his words. The aliens looked at one another, unsettled. Machines were supposed to obey commands, not listen like living beings. Vera leaned forward. "Then you will try again. You will speak to it carefully and we will observe. But understand this, human. If this machine is dangerous, if your words bring harm, it will be your responsibility." Elias nodded, though fear twisted in his stomach. He did not want power. He wanted answers. The next morning, the crew returned to the excavation site. The towers of the machine still glowed faintly, pulsing like the rhythm of a heartbeat. Dust swirled around them in the cold dawn light. Elias stood before the great structure while dozens of eyes watched. His throat felt dry. He whispered a simple word: "Open." At first, nothing happened. Then, with a deep groan, the towers shifted. Panels of metal slid apart, revealing a wide passage descending into the earth. A rush of air escaped, carrying a scent both metallic and strangely fresh, as though the inside of the machine had been untouched for ages, yet preserved perfectly. The crowd gasped. For weeks they had tried to force their way in, and now, with one human word, the path had opened. The soldiers moved cautiously, weapons raised. Lights flickered on along the walls, guiding them down into the passage. The group advanced slowly, Elias walking near the front, though his steps were hesitant. The interior was unlike anything Elias had ever seen. Vast halls stretched endlessly, filled with machines that hummed softly. Gears the size of buildings turned with flawless precision. Strange symbols glowed faintly along the walls, and occasionally they rearranged themselves as though reacting to the presence of the visitors. "It is alive," whispered Professor Darren. "Not in the way we know life, but alive in design, in thought." The others felt it too. The deeper they went, the more the air vibrated with a presence, a silent awareness watching them. At last they reached a central chamber. In the middle stood a massive column of light rising from floor to ceiling. It pulsed like a living heart. When Elias stepped closer, the light shifted. It bent toward him almost like a bow, and a low sound filled the chamber. A voice without words, a presence without form. Elias felt it inside his mind. Images flickered, stars being born, planets forming, civilizations rising and falling. The vision was overwhelming, yet strangely gentle, as if the machine was trying to share its memory with him. He staggered back, gasping for air. Vera caught his arm, her sharp eyes searching his face. "What did it show you?" Elias shook his head slowly. "Not words, just images. I think it was showing me what it has seen. It's been here for longer than we can imagine." The aliens exchanged troubled looks. None of them had seen anything. It had only spoken to the human. Over the following days, Elias spent hours inside the chamber. Each time, the machine responded when he spoke. Simple commands caused lights to brighten, passages to open, and structures to shift. But beyond the physical changes, it continued to share glimpses of its memory. He saw images of worlds transformed, barren planets blooming with forests and oceans, dead stars reignited with fire, entire systems reshaped. This was no weapon. It was something greater, a tool of creation. Yet there were darker images too, civilizations that fought over its power, wars that destroyed those who sought to control it, and then silence. The builders had vanished, leaving their greatest machine asleep beneath the sand. Elias understood one thing clearly. The machine was waiting. But waiting for what? Not everyone in the crew was pleased with these discoveries. Some of the alien factions grew restless. They whispered that it was unfair for such power to rest only in human hands. They feared what it might mean for the balance of power across the galaxy. One evening, Elias overheard two soldiers arguing near the campfire. "If the human controls it," one hissed, "then humans will rise above us all. Why should his kind, so young and untested, hold such authority?" "Maybe it is not his choice," the other replied. "The machine itself has chosen." Their words filled Elias with unease. He had never wanted control. He feared what others might do if they tried to use him as a key to unlock this power. Later, as he sat alone outside his tent, Professor Darien approached him. The insectoid scholar folded two of his arms across his chest, his voice low and thoughtful. "You must understand, Elias, this machine is more than a discovery. It is a legacy. The builders designed it with purpose. It listens only to you, not by accident, but by design. Humanity may carry something the rest of us cannot see." Elias frowned. "But why me? Why humans at all? We're not the strongest, not the smartest. We're just ordinary." Darien's antennae twitched. "Sometimes what seems ordinary is the rarest of all. Perhaps the builders saw in your kind a balance. Logic and emotion, reason and imagination. That balance may be the key." Elias said nothing, but his thoughts swirled. Balance, was that truly the answer? The next day, the tests continued. At Vera's order, Elias gave a command to the machine. "Show me." The chamber darkened. The walls lit with a projection of the galaxy itself. Stars glittered in countless numbers, and pathways of light spread between them like rivers. Entire systems lit up, then dimmed as if showing the rise and fall of civilizations. The crew gasped in awe. Never had they seen such a detailed map, not from any archive or database. But as the projection shifted, a warning appeared, red symbols flashing like fire. Elias could not understand them fully, but he felt the meaning in his mind. Danger, conflict, testing. The machine was not simply a tool. It was a guardian waiting for someone worthy to guide it, and somehow, for reasons none of them could yet explain, that someone was human. That night, Elias lay awake, staring at the stars beyond the tent's fabric. His thoughts churned with fear and wonder. He had come here to study ruins, not to awaken powers beyond comprehension. Yet the machine had chosen to hear his voice, and now there was no turning back. In the distance, the great towers glowed faintly under the moonlight, like watchful eyes. The machine was awake now, and it was listening, waiting, and Elias knew deep inside, the true test had only just begun. Part 3. Secrets Buried in the Code. The sun rose over Chorus, casting a pale glow across the desert. The towering machine stood like a sentinel, its massive spires glinting in the morning light. Every pulse of its glowing veins seemed to echo through the sand, a heartbeat that resonated with the human who had awakened it. Elias Kane walked carefully along the edge of the excavation site. For days he had spent hours inside the machine, listening to its whispers and studying its projections. Each visit brought new visions, worlds reshaped, civilizations rising, and the rise and fall of empires long forgotten. But today felt different. Today he would try to understand its true purpose. Professor Darren joined him, carrying a datapad and a stack of translated symbols. Elias, the inscriptions on the walls. They are not just words, they are instructions. The machine was designed to respond to thought patterns as well as speech. It listens for reasoning and empathy. That may be why none of us, no matter how advanced, could command it. Elias nodded slowly. So, it was waiting for someone like me, or at least someone with a mind like mine. Perhaps, Darren said carefully, or someone with humanity's traits: curiosity, imagination, and flexibility. You are not bound by rigid logic like many of us. You question, you consider possibilities. That may be the key. The human swallowed hard. He did not feel particularly special. Yet every time he gave a command, the machine obeyed. Every time he approached it, it shared fragments of memory and wisdom. Vera appeared at the entrance of the chamber, her golden eyes sharp. We cannot delay. The signals the machine emits, they are spreading. Others may detect them. If any hostile forces arrive, we will be unprepared. Elias looked at the vast hall before him. He could see light flowing along corridors far beyond their reach. Then I will speak to it, he said quietly. I'll try to understand what it wants from us. Inside the machine, Elias placed his hands on the cold metal walls. The lights pulsed softly at his touch. He whispered, "Show me the code. Show me your purpose." Immediately the room transformed. Holographic patterns appeared, forming grids and symbols that moved in complex rhythms. Lines of glowing text flowed across the air. Each symbol seemed alive, rearranging itself as though it was thinking. The aliens watched in awe. Darren adjusted his scanners, trying to interpret the flowing text. Incredible. This is a form of language unlike any we know. It is alive, adaptive, and it responds only to him. Elias focused on the patterns. Slowly, shapes emerged from the chaos. Diagrams of planets, star systems, and energy flows. But beneath them, deeper layers of code revealed instructions. Rules for creation, for building civilizations, and even for controlling the life cycles of planets. This is creation code, whispered Elias. It's not a weapon. It can make worlds alive. Vera's brow furrowed. Creation or destruction, the difference is in the one who wields it. And right now, only you can. The hum of the machine grew louder. Elias felt it in his chest as if it were reading his emotions, testing his intentions. For the first time, he realized the weight of responsibility. This was not just a discovery. It was power beyond imagination. That night, tensions among the alien crew grew. Some argued that humans should not be entrusted with such control. Others insisted that Elias was their only hope of understanding the machine. In a quiet corner, 2 Yarick soldiers spoke in low voices. If it obeys him, we cannot trust it, one said. We must force him to give orders for our benefit. Do you not see? The other replied. He is the only one it will accept. If we try to control him, we risk angering the machine. It could destroy us all. Elias overheard the conversation. He felt a cold knot of worry. The machine had not spoken of enemies or allies. It only responded to him. If others tried to manipulate him, the consequences could be dangerous. He returned to the chamber alone, hoping the machine might provide guidance. He placed his hand on the central column of light and whispered, "What am I to do?" Images flashed in his mind. Ancient cities, great machines forming planets, rivers of light flowing across galaxies. Then came a new image. Humans, aliens, and unknown species standing together, facing challenges and dangers, working as one. It was a vision of cooperation. Elias understood. The machine was not meant for dominance. It was meant to guide, to shape, but only with wisdom and balance. He realized the First Age builders had left a test. They sought someone who could balance reason with empathy, logic with creativity. That was why the machine ignored the others. It was seeking balance, something rare among the galaxy's rigid civilizations. Days passed. Elias experimented cautiously. He learned that simple commands, open, rise, illuminate, triggered physical changes. But complex commands required thought and intent. The machine would not act on impulse, only on careful, deliberate direction. One morning, Darren brought a breakthrough. "Elias, I think I understand part of its design. The inscriptions suggest a sequence. They are instructions left by the builders. If followed correctly, they could activate its full potential." Elias frowned. "Full potential? What does that mean?" Darren hesitated. "I do not know fully, but the symbols suggest it can shape planets, possibly entire systems. It may have been used to restore dead worlds or even create new ecosystems." Elias's mind raced. The implications were staggering. He felt both excitement and fear. The machine could be a tool to heal worlds, but it could also be misused if it fell into the wrong hands. Tensions among the alien crew reached a peak. Some began to question why a single human was chosen. Some feared the consequences of giving one species so much influence. Vera called a council meeting. "We must accept a truth. The machine has chosen Elias. Any attempts to override that fact are pointless. We will assist him in learning, not controlling him." But not everyone agreed. A small faction of engineers whispered plans of taking control by force, convinced they could unlock its secrets themselves. Elias overheard fragments of their conversation, and worry gripped his heart. He returned to the machine, placing his hands on its surface. He whispered, "I need guidance." A soft vibration ran through the metal. Images appeared before him. A galaxy in turmoil, civilizations collapsing under greed and ambition. And among them humans, struggling, making mistakes, yet showing courage and creativity where others failed. The message was clear. Humans were not perfect. But their unpredictability, their balance of emotion and reason, was exactly what the machine sought. Elias understood that his role was not to dominate, but to guide. He was a steward, chosen not for strength, but for humanity. As the sun set over the desert, the machine pulsed with a calm rhythm. The crew gathered outside, watching the spires glow in the twilight. For the first time, no one spoke of fear or ambition. They simply watched. Elias stepped forward, speaking softly, almost to himself. "I don't fully understand you, but I will learn, and I will use what you show me wisely." The machine responded with a warm glow, almost like acknowledgement. The vibrations ran through the ground, echoing into the distance. Somewhere in the shadows, the dissenting faction watched, their faces set in determination. They had seen the power of the machine, and they were not ready to accept that a human, and only a human, could guide it. Elias did not know the future. He did not know the full extent of the machine's abilities. But one truth had become clear. This was not just a discovery. This was a responsibility, and the fate of worlds might one day rest on his choices. He took a deep breath and looked at the glowing towers rising above the desert sands. The machine was alive, listening and learning, and he would have to be ready for what came next because others would test him. And the machine itself might test him even more. And in that moment, Elias realized that the adventure of a lifetime was only beginning. The sun rose over Koras, but its light did little to ease the tension at the excavation site. The glowing towers of the ancient machine stood like vigilant sentinels, their rhythmical pulses echoing across the desert. The air was thick with unease, for some among the crew had begun to doubt whether they could trust one human with such incredible power. Elias Kane walked toward the chamber once again, accompanied by Professor Darren and Commander Vera. The young human had spent days learning how the machine responded to his voice, but he knew there was more to discover. He felt as though the machine itself was watching him, testing his intentions, measuring his judgment. "You are ready for the next trial?" Darren said, his voice quiet. "The inscriptions suggest the machine will present challenges, not physical ones, but choices. It will test your reasoning and your values. That is why it obeys you. Others cannot pass such a test." Elias swallowed hard. "I don't know if I'm ready." "You have no choice," Vera said firmly. "The machine has chosen you. All we can do is follow your lead." Inside the central chamber, Elias placed his hands on the glowing column. The lights pulsed more strongly than ever before, forming intricate patterns in the air. Holographic images appeared, planets spinning, stars exploding, civilizations building and collapsing. Then the machine projected a new scenario, one that took Elias by surprise. He saw a city under siege not by enemies from outside but by factions within. Leaders argued over resources, citizens fought for survival, and chaos threatened to destroy everything. The simulation was real enough to feel terrifying. A voice without sound whispered in his mind. What would you do? Elias knew this was the trial. The machine was testing not strength but judgment. He studied the scenario carefully, analyzing the problems. He could see opportunities for compromise, ways to guide the city toward peace, but the solution required empathy, patience, and creativity, not brute force. He spoke to the machine. Show them the way. Help them understand each other. The holographic simulation shifted. Leaders paused, citizens calmed, and the city stabilized. The machine's pulse changed, slower, calmer, as if acknowledging that Elias's choices were wise. Vera and Darin exchanged impressed glances. Elias's voice had not commanded destruction. It had guided, nurtured, and solved a problem through understanding, but the peace did not last long. Outside the chamber, whispers of discontent among the alien crew were growing louder. Some of the engineers, frustrated by their inability to control the machine, had begun plotting. They saw Elias not as a guide, but as a barrier to power. Late that night, Elias overheard 2 Yarick soldiers speaking in hushed tones. "We cannot let one human hold this," one said. "We will take him, force him to command the machine for our benefit," the other nodded. "If he refuses, the consequences will be unavoidable." Elias felt a cold knot of fear. The machine had chosen him, but others might try to manipulate him or worse, harm him to seize control. He understood that this trial was not only within the machine's chamber, but also outside it, in the hearts and minds of those around him. He returned to the chamber alone, placing his hands on the glowing column. "I need your guidance," he whispered. Images filled his mind, galaxies in turmoil, civilizations collapsing under greed and ambition, but also humans, ordinary humans, showing courage, creativity, and teamwork where others failed. The message was clear. He was not meant to dominate, but to guide, to balance logic with empathy. The next morning, the dissenting faction made their move. A group of alien engineers and soldiers approached Elias as he studied the machine. Weapons drawn, they demanded he give them access to its power. Elias stepped back, fear rising. He raised his hands and spoke, not in anger but in command. "Stop, you cannot force this." The machine responded immediately. Panels of metal slid into place, sealing off the chamber. The dissenting faction froze, unable to move closer. The floor vibrated beneath them and a low hum filled the air. A warning, a barrier, a reminder that the machine listened only to the human it had chosen. Elias's heart pounded. He realized the stakes were higher than he had imagined. The machine was not just a tool, it was alive in a way he could feel, and it protected its chosen human. Vera stepped forward, her eyes sharp. "Do you see now? The machine will not allow threats to its steward. It has tested your voice, your judgment, and now your authority. We must respect that." The days that followed were filled with training and experimentation. Elias learned to give commands carefully. He discovered that even small phrases could trigger massive changes. Doors opening, pathways rearranging, lights pulsing in complex patterns. But complex actions required thought and intention, not haste. One afternoon, Elias decided to test the machine's limits. He whispered, "Show me your full memory." The chamber erupted in light. Holographic images of entire civilizations flooded the air. He saw worlds rebuilt, oceans restored, forests growing, and skies clearing from storms. He saw the rise and fall of ancient empires, and the careful guidance of the machine shaping civilizations with wisdom. Yet there were darker images too. Civilizations destroyed by greed, leaders who sought control over the machine, wars that consumed planets. Elias realized the builders had left a warning. This power could not be abused. He understood the responsibility that came with being the steward. This was not a game. Lives, worlds, and civilizations depended on careful choices, balance, and wisdom. The dissenting faction did not give up. Secret meetings, whispered plans, and small acts of sabotage began to surface. Elias sensed their intentions, but he did not act in anger. He knew that the machine's tests were as much about patience and judgment as about command. One evening, the machine projected a new challenge. A series of holographic questions appeared, not about worlds or systems, but about morality and choice. Would you sacrifice one to save many? Would you risk your own safety for the weak? Would you forgive a mistake if it meant hope for the future? Elias paused, considering each carefully. He realized that the machine was training him not to wield power blindly, but to think, to weigh, and to act with humanity. He spoke his answers aloud, not with authority but with honesty. I would protect the many, but not without trying to save the one. I would risk myself for those who cannot protect themselves, and I would forgive, for without hope, we are lost. The machine pulsed brightly in response, the light spreading through the chamber like waves of approval. Elias felt a strange warmth. He understood that his choices were not only being judged, they were shaping him, teaching him to be a guide worthy of the power he held. As the days turned to nights, Elias gained confidence. He learned to give commands that shaped the machine yet respected its wisdom. He discovered that it was not simply obeying him, it was collaborating with him, responding to his intentions, refining his judgment as much as his own. Yet the threat from outside remained. The dissenting faction watched, growing more desperate. They had seen what power the machine could grant, and they were not willing to wait for cooperation or understanding. Elias knew that a confrontation was inevitable. He also knew that the machine itself would act to protect him, as it had already done, but he could not rely solely on its defense. He had to be ready to guide it wisely, to make choices that could prevent unnecessary conflict, and to maintain balance between those who sought power and those who sought understanding. He stood at the edge of the chamber, looking out at the glowing towers rising above the desert sands. The wind carried the faint hum of the machine across the plain, a reminder that it was alive, aware, and listening. Elias whispered softly, almost to himself, "I will not fail. I will learn. I will guide wisely." The machine pulsed in response as if acknowledging his promise. The journey was far from over. Challenges would come from the machine, from the galaxy, and from those who sought its power. But Elias knew one thing for certain. The first age builders had chosen well. The human mind, with its balance of reason and imagination, was exactly what the machine needed, and Elias Kane would be ready for whatever came next.